Sports. When you've got a great ball club. Sports. When you're leaving it all on the field. Sports. When you like your team's chances. Sports. To survive and advance in sports. For the teams you love and the teams you love to hate. It's Sports Channel 8. Yeah. Sports Channel 8. Hey! Hey! Hey!
It is Sports Channel 8, the streaming show, coming at you on NCAA Tournament Monday, the day after the ACC Tournament, where we barely have time to talk about the ACC Tournament because everybody's already looking at their brackets and moving on. Josh Goodson, the Weather Moose, and myself, Hayes Permar, all joining you. Who knows? Ben Swain may show up. We're talking it all right here, including the fact, do you guys remember this? Last year, the tournament didn't forget the first four stuff for now or forever. Last year, remember the tournament went Friday to Mondays instead of Thursday to Sundays? Did you guys – I feel like I missed that. Not miss is the wrong word because we only did it 1 year, but like I kind of dug that system where we got like a bunch of it out of the weekend, but then you went back to work on a Monday and you still had Monday night games. So I'm kind of disappointed to be back to Thursday games.
It's kind of like the Players Golf Tournament. Like, so there was obviously rain down in Florida over the weekend. So
and wind, I heard.
And wind. And like they're literally now just finishing the third round, but essentially golf came on at 8:00 this morning, and we're gonna have a final round that still hasn't started in 2 hours. It's kind of a I don't hate that the golf worked out that it was a Friday to Monday type deal, because like you said, it helps. Now if you were a golf fan, let's just say you were a big golf guy, you now have a 3-day week of no golf. Yeah.
And then it's right back to more golf. Yes. So no, I thought it was great, and it's good to know. So I can go just turn on the Players Championship right now and just spend my whole day watching that.
It's on Golf Channel right now.
Fantastic. First tournament ever.
Harold Varner III is like top 5. So he's in there right now. It's kind of you didn't come here for golf, but it's kind of a crappy leaderboard because it was like, if you teed off first thing Thursday and finished your round, then you did not have to deal with playing on Saturday, I guess, when the wind was crazy. So if you go look at the leaderboard and you're like, we like Harold Varner III, but a leaderboard where he is kind of the most notable guy is kind of like not a good leaderboard.
Yeah. It's all about when you played.
It's all about when you played. So there's a bunch of dudes that didn't make it, but whatever. It's still golf, and it's Monday, and it's on TV all day.
I'm going to remember that next time I play poorly, be like, you know what? If I just started at like, the morning instead of this afternoon, I would have been fine.
Yeah, there you go.
Golf on the tee. You're going to get us kicked off for showing a broadcast. Also, all the things that people care about when we're breaking down brackets. Let's talk about our own weekends. First, Moose, do I see that you removed the Christmas trees?
That's right. They're gone. They're gone, fellas. No Christmas trees here.
Was it because you caused the weather to get stupid cold over the weekend and you had to warm up the house?
So what happened was the frost that we got killed them all. So I had to take them out of here. That's the truth of it. So
25 degrees, 25-degree weather. And I know you were in New York, so you may be able to say the same thing, but 25 in March just hits different than when it's in January.
Well, for me, it was all right. I didn't like really look at the weather in New York. I just did hey, it's New York. And I glanced, I was like, it's not a randomly mild weekend in New York. Like, it's going to be cold. So the whole time it was like, jacket and then big jacket and hat and gloves, right? Like at all times. And I was like, the first couple of days, I was like, I did pretty well. I'm beating this cold, right? But I was walking around in like 40s. And then all of a sudden on Saturday, I was walking around in 20s and snow in the face. And it was just ridiculous. So yes, it hits a little bit different up there.
But yeah. Moose got rid of the Christmas tree.
That's the biggest news of the weekend. And then Goodson, what did you do this weekend? Something?
I think I'm already putting myself in the running and also winning dad of the weekend. Like it's not even like someone else can try to say they did something better for their family or were just did more dad stuff than me. But besides having a newborn in the hospital, and then I think I clinched it by leaving the hospital with little sleep to go to a daddy-daughter dance with my daughter at home and then back to the hospital. Had I not gone back to the hospital, I probably would have lost.
You left the door open?
Stayed home and slept, but going back to the hospital clinched it.
You know who you sound like in your confidence of winning Dad of the Year?
Who's that?
You sound like Wake fans, like right after they beat UNC. Like, whatever happens the rest of the way, it's a done deal. There's no way at this point in January that they could ever leave me out.
Well, the reality is I got 2 quad 1 wins this weekend with having a kid and going to a daddy-daughter dance, and that's not much that Wake fans really can't do that. So
I will say, I'm sure this was like the embodiment of all Wake fans, but I'll let you guys know this. There's that guy, Christian, and he's got a weird name that I didn't learn. He's the Wake student newspaper writer.
He asks the best questions in the history of press conferences.
He was very proud of his questions. He was very proud to tell you that he was one of 2 student journalists who got to vote on all ACC awards. He was a very nice guy, if a little overeager, just in all facets of things, right? We could just like, he's a nice guy.
Was he, and we mean this with all due respect, if he's watching, was he like Josh Graham 10 years ago?
A little Josh Graham.
There's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with that because Josh Graham is now like a radio sports talk, host of his own shows. So there's nothing wrong with being like that at his age, especially too.
Yeah, he was just a little overeager. It was funny because I was sitting next to him, and I was, and you guys were even the ones who were like, well, "What's he doing there on Thursday?" Right? And I was like, "Yeah, what are you sticking around?" He's like, "Well, I'd gone ahead and booked a trip through Sunday. You know, I figured worst case scenario, we'd be here to do Thursday." And I was like, "Buddy, that wasn't the worst case scenario. Like if you played on Wednesday, there was a worst case scenario than losing on Thursday." And
if you played early on Wednesday, then literally you did not even need a Wednesday night hotel room.
Yeah. And the combo of people on the press row were him, who apparently I didn't even see the thing with Coach K, but he was talking about it. And he was sitting next to the dude who had gotten into it with Boeheim at the presser, like the extremely New York guy that was like, "I saw it. It was a punch." So those two were just clamoring about the bubble the whole time. And the New York guy was like super impressed with this guy's Christian's grasp of the bubble, not realizing that he's only just watching for Wake fan purposes, right? Like the reason he knows the bubble up and down. So then all Thursday, that guy was just sitting there being like, "Oh my God, Texas A&M just won!" Like, I can't believe Wyoming won again. I mean, it was just watching him in real time, as I'm sure many Wake fans were doing, melt completely down, where every possible thing it seemed like could have gone wrong went wrong for them.
The good thing about Wake, and it's a hindsight thing, and I don't mean the good thing, but about that scenario you're speaking, I don't think the conference tournaments even actually ended up mattering.
Yeah.
There was this thought, and I don't say no one wants to think it's wrong because we don't actually know, but there was a thought if Wake wins Wednesday, that could have been enough, right? And it's more of you just don't lose the last time you're seen in your conference tournament type deal in your favorite. But I don't think the conference tournaments mattered. Michigan lost, I think, day one. Texas A&M had a great run and won a ton of big games. They didn't get in, so it was. I think in hindsight, Wake needed to get to. They needed to beat Duke basically on Friday night, probably to give themselves a chance to possibly.
Yeah, I disagree with that, man. Because look, like the committee's got a job to do on Sunday, right? Like that's their job is to do on Sunday. Yeah. Are you waiting until Sunday to do that job?
No. Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. You're right. Yeah.
They probably like watched until Thursday or maybe Friday. Like Friday night, Friday night's even too late in the ACC tournament for that. I think they did their work up until like banking hours on Friday, and then we're done. So anything that happened before 5 p.m. on Friday was considered.
Especially when it comes to a bubble team, like the teams they want to get in are in, and then at that point they're only probably taking away based on another like a Richmond winning the Atlantic 10, right? At that point they're basically I don't know who the first team out was. It's whoever the number one overall NITC, but it may have been. Let's say it's A&M. A&M was probably in, and they had probably got in or whatever. But then Richmond won, and it was like whatever. To your point, Swain, like. They basically had the teams they wanted to have in props by Friday type deal.
We talk about this in football. Do you think – and basketball is obviously more games, so it's a little bit harder to gauge. But, like, Do you think in the scenario that we're describing, it kind of matters when you lose or win your games, right? Like Texas A&M had a 12-game losing streak in the middle of their season that
Right.
the committee was thinking about a lot more than they were thinking about the win they got on Friday or whatever it was.
And I'm kind of cool with that because what we just went through, while we love it as fans, like conference tournament action, that's not like normal play. You don't play 4 straight days against 4 straight teams and such. And so it's to place emphasis on how you performed in that unique scenario. We as fans think it's the biggest deal in the world. Like conference tournaments are bigger than regular season games, and they are. But just the whole nature of the conference tournaments, you shouldn't place as much emphasis on can you win 3 games in a row? Like why didn't you win? Why did you lose 12 games in a row in a month? Is kind of a bigger deal.
All right, let's take a look at the actual bracket. We'll talk women's bracket a little bit in a while. The 5 ACC teams got in. Probably would have been just 4 if Virginia Tech hadn't won it. Am I wrong? In like Virginia Tech would not have gotten in.
Yeah, because they got so the best way to look is the first 4 games, which would be the 11. I think the 2 11 games.
Yep.
Rutgers, Notre Dame, and
Wyoming, Indiana.
Are they at 12 or 11?
They're 12.
Got it. So those first 4 games, those are your last 4 in.
Yeah. Rutgers, Notre Dame, and yeah, you said this. I didn't watch that much Notre Dame this year. I was impressed when I saw them. The freshman Wesley was obviously good, and they got a top 4 team. But you know, there wasn't, when you look, I'm like, what was the most notable thing Notre Dame did all year? But they probably, they were a couple weird things happening in tournaments from being bumped themselves. But when you saw them,
I actually think someone put the seed sheet out, like they overall rank. I think Notre Dame was the last team in.
Yeah, and when you saw that, you knew things were not going to be good for Wake. Duke is a 2 seed with Gonzaga as their 1 seed. We'll ask Swain, maybe off for a second, but we'll ask him what he thinks about that. UNC is an 8 seed playing the 9 seed, and then they would get Baylor in the second round. Goodson, I think we've talked about this before, about enjoying being the 8 or 9 seed. It's kind of a sneaky good place to be. You don't have high expectations, but the bracket can open up for you. If you make it to the Sweet 16, all of a sudden you're feeling good. Miami, a 10 seed, taking on Southern Cal, and who's the other ACC team? Notre Dame, Duke,
Virginia
Miami.
Tech.
Yeah, and Virginia Tech.
So going back to Virginia Tech, I think they actually ended up being
they're an 11 seed.
They're an 11. So
taking on Texas.
I don't think they were in until they won Saturday night.
They also, this sounds like I'm disrespecting Virginia Tech or taking something away from the run in the ACC tournament, which I'm not. They've got balance. They've got some dudes who can bang in the post, Aluma and Mutz. They've got dudes who can shoot, and Mike Young's a pretty good coach. You saw them trying to get the ball in places they thought they could score when they had, when it was Brady Manick was one-on-one with Aluma. They were like, get him down in the post and post that guy up. When they could run their 3-pointers and shooters and get them open, obviously they could rain that too. They feel to me like a team that now that you see them beat Duke and North Carolina in back-to-back nights look really good, you're like, yo, I'm writing them into my regional finals. But it's like, I don't know. They feel like a team that could lose to Texas. Am I crazy there?
I think you can be. I think the answer could be yes.
To your point, it's just like you can get so wrapped up in, wow, Virginia Tech, what a run. They must be a really good team. And I do think that they are a better team than when they were starting conference play and they sort of really got out of the gate slow. But there's just something I'm wary about picking Virginia Tech to go far, just because I think it's too much bias of seeing them look really good, beat UNC and Duke
in a back-to-back
in game when they had to win, and UNC and Duke, I'm sure they were trying hard, but obviously didn't need it as much as Virginia Tech did. So I am wary about picking Virginia Tech to go very far. I can see them losing to Texas. I can see them losing Purdue easily.
Are you weary, or is it weary?
I was trying to say wary. If it didn't,
it's wary. Yeah.
So yes, I'm not liking that.
All I know is for BG's sake, Virginia Tech better make a run.
he didn't validate it with the ACC tournament title for Mike Young?
Absolutely not. Who won the ACC tournament last year?
Georgia Tech.
Yeah. Okay.
Wait, can we talk about that real quick? The last two ACC tournament champions. Is the ACC like we were talking about? Should it be in Brooklyn, like right, or should it not? Should we just not have it?
Not have the tournament.
Like obviously, the committee doesn't care about the tournament, right? They legitimately they don't necessarily. It doesn't really affect what happens in the bracket per se. It just allows extra teams to get in that weren't going to get in. Is what it comes down to. So. Hell, if you didn't earn it the first 30 games of the year, like why do you earn it? Because you played well for 3 straight days. And
why don't we scrap the ACC tournament and just go back to having a Big Four? That we need to do something that weekend. You need to have basketball presence, but on Friday have UNC play State and Duke play Wake, and on Sunday the winners play, and just be like, we're not doing the ACC tournament anymore.
So I think they need to do what they did in 2020, right? Which is just play like the first day and then cancel it, and then Swofford just decide, or Phillips now just decides who the champion is, right?
Who won the regular season championship?
So like Wake Forest, you're on the bubble. It doesn't look like you're going to get in, so we're going to give you the automatic bid.
That's how we should do it.
It's like a presidential pardon, right? Like that. That's what the tournament should be. Is a presidential pardon where we just cancel it. Like, look, Boston College gets up by like 8 points in that game. Shut the lights off. Oh, we got to cancel the tournament. All right, Wake, you're the highest seeded team on the court, so we're going to give it to you. Congratulations, you guys.
What if we gave? If anybody wants to put the bracket back up there, I'll put it up. But what if we gave the commissioner power to like, okay, here are the teams the committee picked. As an ACC, you're allowed to swap in like an ACC. You can take any ACC team off and put any ACC team in. I think I'd like that power. Or like
weird that the Carolina guy would like that because
we're in, baby. No, Wake Forest fans would be like, let us in over Virginia Tech, Jim Phillips. Come on, you're moving the ACC out of the triad. At least get us in this year. What was it? Did Florida State and Miami win the ACC tournament back to back in the day? Like I remember. In 2012,
or maybe Notre Dame and Miami. There was a stretch of like,
I think it was Notre Dame and Miami.
But Florida State won it in like 12, and then Miami won it in 14 or 16, and Notre Dame won it in 15.
Here we go. We got we had a stretch in 12, 13, and 14. We had Florida State, Miami, Virginia. And then Notre Dame. So 4 straight years: Florida State, Miami, Virginia, Notre Dame. Virginia, Notre Dame.
But at least Virginia had won it before. But
at least those teams were like good.
That's what I mean. Miami felt like a good team when they won it, But like Virginia Tech and Georgia Tech, this is like slightly embarrassing that we're letting this happen, guys.
Whose fault? Do you place more blame? I'm going straight to the top. It's a Duke and UNC issue. It's not an issue.
UNC's not at the top of anything right now. Blame Duke.
No, but it's kind of like the ACC football thing, right? Like we got to have we don't have the ACC tournament still, so we can have Georgia Tech come up and win it or Virginia Tech win it. Like it falls on the shoulders of Duke, and it falls on the shoulders of Duke and UNC to win it basically every other year. Like just switch it off every year.
Yes, it
falls on like states got to make runs. They're not going to ever win it, but you got to get to like the semifinals.
You got to be close enough to be mad about not
right. But state making a run. While Duke and UNC are also like again switching off who wins, just makes it more. It feels like it's good.
Fans there, yep.
The stakes are so low. Like you mentioned, football. Like Clemson, they've got to win the ACC championship to get into the playoff, right? Like
right.
if it's you would go right to the Final Four, then that it looks a lot different in the ACC tournament than it does now. I'm not saying teams aren't trying hard, not trying to win or whatever, but like. You're basing your entire season on those games, then it looks different than it does now.
I was surprised. I was surprised that UNC and Duke both lost back to back to Virginia. Like I have this feeling in my brain that I've seen UNC play really good, and it was like a week ago, and I'm like, okay, they're going to beat Virginia Tech, and it's like they got crushed, right? Yeah. And then like the same thing, I was like, okay, Duke's probably the highest potential team, has the highest potential, the highest ceiling in the ACC. And then they just, I don't know if they quit, but they just kind of they got disinterested fast and were just like, what? It was like a very whatever-ish type feel to the end of it. And you could tell that the team wanted it more.
Perm, we've talked about this a lot, and I'll have to go back and dig. I remember specifically this happening in 2015 and which is when we had the conversation. But when you've got Duke and Carolina in opposite semifinals, right? Whoever plays first wins that game. So they're setting up for Duke Carolina in the championship game. All the pressure in the world is on that second team to make it happen, right? And while it's happening, the first team that's already in is thinking, oh, we're going to play Duke and Carolina tomorrow. And they're already getting that mindset. And then it doesn't happen. In 2015, neither one of them won, right? Like Notre Dame beat Carolina in the finals, right?
No.
Trivia. When's the last Duke UNC tournament final? When's the last time it actually happened?
Did we see one? No, we saw the Brooklyn one was a semifinal with Zion.
Semifinal.
When was the last time we saw Duke and UNC in the ACC tournament final?
Anybody want to hit the comments?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But we've gotten really good Duke Carolina games when they play each other in the semifinals.
Yep.
When they're on the opposite ends of the bracket. So Max is 2011, I'll believe it. When they're on opposite sides of the bracket.
2011 is correct.
Yeah, I'm curious how many times that the second team, the first team wins, second team loses, and then the first team loses in the championship game. I feel like that happens a lot.
I think it's interesting that we started. It was about a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, when we started clowning the West Coast Conference tournament bracket, and the more we've looked at it, we're like,
do things the right way.
Bring it on. There's somebody over there in the West Coast Conference. It is totally, the opposite of like a fair bracket competition.
Yeah. Well, Wake Forest is in the tournament, right? Wake Forest is 100% in the tournament if they go to the WTC bracket.
I'm assuming Duke won in 2011 because Max Gonguer remembers a
Yes.
the other way. So.
Yes, Duke won 75-58.
I actually may have to. Max Gonguer might be on my All ACC team that I've got here. I've got a spot for him. I might get in there. My man, the best was he literally had. I mean, he had the seat behind Jim Phillips. Like Jim Phillips was sitting in media section, press credential. But sitting over on the side, like behind the scores table, and Max and his mother were right behind them, center court, right? And at the finals, Max is a big Elon fan. He knew, he kept ending up on TV because he was right there, and they'd show him wearing his UNC gear. So the last day, he wore all Elon gear just to go to rep the Phoenix and to try and get some pub for them. So I respect him for that. But yes, I'm ready to adopt the West Coast. Let's forget trying to get the scenario where Duke and UNC are both in the semifinals opposite each other, and let's just start there. Even if it's like the Duke finishes second in the ACC and Carolina's fifth, doesn't matter. We get you in your regular spots. When they did the Big Four, they had it right of like, no. Like, these are the teams we want to see in it, our local teams, and then we'll have some other teams come play. But, like, ultimately, we want to end up with our teams. Swain, what do you think about Duke's NCAA tournament draw?
Honestly, and it feels weird saying this, I haven't looked at the bracket much. This is the first time I've really looked at the bracket. It's fun, like seeing the reaction to. I saw the reaction to it before I saw the bracket, and the reaction is pretty typical of what you would get, where non-Duke people feel like it's a complete easy path to the Final Four, and Duke people are like Cal State Fullerton should be a 10 seed. So the reaction's pretty predictable. So I don't really know how to feel about it yet. I think obviously looking at Duke Davidson or Duke Michigan State in the second round is pretty fun. Just from a name point of view, right? Like I think Davidson is probably the kind of team that could give Duke problems, like a Virginia Tech, where they don't have a lot of height and they can spread the court, and you don't really have someone for Mark Williams to play. You don't really have someone for Banchero to defend. It's one of those things where it's just kind of like a weird matchup for Duke. K versus Izzo is always going to bring a lot of headlines. And then I think Texas Tech is probably the best team in that bracket, right? Like I think they've got a better chance than Duke and Gonzaga.
That's a very BG type thing to say. Like
we're all Texas Tech.
No, but just saying like I'm looking at the bracket, and let me tell y'all, Texas Tech's the best team. It's like no.
Beach is more of an Alabama guy. He loves him some Nate Oates. Loves the offensive Nate Oates. But they're in that same side of the bracket as well, you know?
Yeah, so like you definitely have some intriguing matchups there. You got, K versus Izzo potentially in the second round, K versus Nate Oates, going back to the year comments.
You got Duke, Arkansas. You could get a Duke, Arkansas, or Duke, UConn, or Duke, Gonzaga, which all have some historical context type deals and like a Elite Eight type deal as well. So
yeah.
I also got to ask, just because we're talking Duke. Well, go ahead, and then I'll ask you another Duke.
No, I'm just going to say that Gonzaga's got to win a tournament and a half worth of games to even get to play Duke. So
we got to win 3 West Coast tournaments to win this whole thing. This is crazy. I know you guys like hate Gonzaga. I don't hate Gonzaga as much as you guys do, but too much in sports, we're happy when the person ends their like lovable loser streak, you know what I mean? And I'm like, we need lovable losers to keep those narratives alive. Like when Sergio won the Masters, everybody's like, "Oh, this is great." And I was like, "No,
the Cubs."
Yeah, it was
like
more fun. Yes, 100%. Phil Mickelson to me was more intriguing when he had never won anything, and then you knew once he won, he was going to. But like Sergio never won anything, and so like there's drama if Sergio is even close against a no-name in the final because you're like, it's Sergio versus himself, right? And that's how I feel about Gonzaga. Like, I'm not actively rooting for them to lose because I think that they are a bad program or they did something wrong or I hate their fans, whatever. It's more just like we cheer for everybody to go ahead and get over that hump, or it's like, nah, the hump is a fun story to watch them grind against and seeing Gonzaga, build into this legit national program, but still not quite be able to validate it. We saw, Dean Smith, Coach K, they both went through it too. Now I wasn't really around as much to remember. I remember Coach K going through it, but no,
of course you do. We know you do.
I wasn't alive when I don't remember Dean Smith winning his first title, but I remember K going from go to the Final Four. Gonzaga can't even talk. K went to like 6 straight Final Fours and he just couldn't win.
That was more of a Buffalo Bills situation where he's in the Final Four every year and didn't win. But my only beef with Gonzaga is this: they're the New England freaking Patriots, where they're the 1 seed in the West every year because they play in the equivalent of the AFC East. That you put Tom Brady's New England Patriots in a tough division. He doesn't have anywhere near the success that he has at a career level. It's the same thing with Gonzaga. They are sharpied into the 1 seed in the West every year because they're going to go 32-3, playing a soft ass schedule out in their whatever conference, the WCC.
And they're a metrics nerd champion. Like of course you're going to have the best efficient offense. Like you could play 35 terrible other teams, but if you play really good defense just because you're that much better than them against them, and you play really good offense because you're that much better than them, your numbers are going to look good. Yeah. And let me say, the bracket stuck it to the metric nerds this year. It was because I was more fascinated with the bubble end of it more so than like the top end is kind of whatever. Like the teams that like Wake was a pretty high metric predictive team, didn't matter. Whereas like Rutgers was like a top 80. But they beat they won a bunch of good games. And so they were, I don't care what your metrics are. Your metrics usually end up being a little inflated, based on who and who you play and how good you're playing against them. Or, so if you're Gonzaga and you're beating the shit out of everybody, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think they're better used to predict what you might do in the future versus judge what you've done up to that point, and it's a resume game, right? It's not the tournament's not there to pick who's going to win. They're there to pick who deserves to be in, and if you don't have the wins and losses, you're not going to get there. I think the only thing that pisses me off about the bracket, not like I hate being the guy that's like, everybody's got one thing that they latch on. The thing that I hate most about the tournament is the only reason the first 4 is there is because we felt like we had too many automatic bids stealing bids from other conferences, like, at-large bids.
Right.
So put the freaking at-large teams in the first 4 and have them play their way into the tournament. I think it's crap that you've got 16 seeds playing in the first four, mainly because I think it's crap that you've got 16 seeds winning games in the NCAA tournament against anyone that's not Virginia. So I think you've got to put them in those 1 versus 16 matchups, and you can't have them playing to get into the big tournament. You call it the first round if you want to. I love how they try to sneak in, and I don't know when they started doing this. When did they start sneaking in like last 4 buys? Like Duke's got a buy, Carolina's got a buy. No, they don't. They're playing in the first round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, don't let's not pretend that the first 4 is part of the tournament. It's a play-in tournament. Put 4 at-large teams, or put what is it, 8?
Yeah, do as many as you want. Who cares, right?
Put 8 at-large teams in there and have them fight to get in at last like a 10 or 11 seed instead of putting the 16 seeds in.
Didn't they try and make us call the first round the second round one year?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, whoa. Yeah. No one is doing this. Probably like, 64 is just a perfect number. It's just so, symmetrical, whatever. I do. I'm with you, someone, Swain. I think I've even heard Lavelle Moten talk about, but for a Texas Southern, now you actually have a chance of winning a game as opposed to, unless you're playing Virginia as a 16 seed, you don't have a chance. And so for a team like NC Central to go up and play a game in Dayton and have a chance to win, that means a lot for them. I've heard that side of it.
Yeah, but I'm also calling bullshit if somebody's out there saying like if Wright State beats Bryant and they're like, we won an NCAA tournament game. No, you didn't. You want to play in game.
Don't sleep on Wright State.
Ass beat by Arizona. Like that's what it's all about, man. We need those 16 seeds getting their ass beat by a 1 seed. And that's what everybody wants to see, unless they're playing Virginia. Don't
sleep on Wright State. I saw them live in Raleigh, and they came to Raleigh and beat the hell out of State this year. So, yeah, they beat. It was like one of those instances at the beginning of the year where you're like, we're not that bad. Everybody has a bad night. Like, Duke lost to Stephen F. Austin a couple years ago, and like sometimes you lose a game. Everybody's playing. It was like maybe that should have been like this.
More of a wake up call.
Not going to go well.
What are you talking about? It's an NCAA tournament too. That's a quality loss.
Speaking of Stephen F. Austin, they're in the what is it, the CBI or CIT? What's the third one now?
I don't know.
There was a CBI. There was a CIT at one point. I believe we're CBI though.
CBI. Okay, we've got Stephen F. Austin is in the CBI, but we've also got UNC Asheville and UNC Greensboro in the CBI. So we need to pay careful attention to that this year.
What's the one that ECU won? One of them with like a pretty dramatic finish.
I think that was the one, right? That tournament?
Yeah. That was like the most ECU basketball I'd ever watched. It was like 3 straight games where I actually watched ECU basketball.
One last thing about the tournament. Sorry, Perm.
No.
For years, Virginia fans have been trying to find a way to get under my skin, right? Like we have done collectively at Sports Channel 8 a remarkable job getting under the skin of Virginia fans. I feel like we've done it. I feel like we're successful at it. I feel like we're even known for it. And for years, they've tried to get back at us. They have finally done it because I cannot read one more tweet about how excited Virginia fans are about the NIT tournament. I can't do it. Like, Even
Wake fans have too much pride to be. Well, I see some of them settling into being happy about the NIT.
Well, no, Wake fans are like mad settling. They're mad. I think I sent y'all the tweet, but like one of them was like Wake. I think got a 2 seed, which is hilarious. That means they weren't even the first 4 out of the tournament. So they got a 2 seed, and one of them was like, we got the hardest 7 seed in our bracket.
Like, stop complaining about your NIT seeding.
But Wake fans are not out here saying like view our program on the same level as Kentucky and Carolina, and they're not out there saying we're a blue blood program. Pay attention to. They're not doing that. There is no one at any of those actual legitimate blue blood schools who would be excited about an NIT tournament, and it's so congratulations, Virginia fans. You've gotten me to the point where like I can't even read it anymore. So way to go, assholes.
So some people are saying the NIT is better than the NCAA this year. Over on the women's side, NC State earned a number 1 seed in their bracket. Are they the 1 seed overall?
No.
They earned a number 1 seed. which gives them the right to, if they make a regional final, which is a lot between now and then, to face 2-seed Connecticut in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I need an official ruling from State and Moose. Is this a screw job by the NCAA? Is this yet another screw job by the NCAA against NC State? Moose, what say you?
100% perm. We can't have anything good ever, and this is how everything plays out all the time with NC State hoops. Even when we're good, you got to get screwed somehow, some way.
Goodson?
It didn't have to happen. Like, send State to Connecticut, right? Like, so the way that it worked out, I think there was a Greensboro region, right? That's where that's a Final Four, that's a Elite Eight, Sweet 16 location. There's the Bridgeport region, and then there's probably one in the Midwest and probably on the West Coast. And so if you're trying to help State, so South Carolina got the number 1 overall seed, and so their closest proximity was Greensboro. And State's already played South Carolina, so if you ask Wes Moore, he probably would have said, well, hell, give us the 2 seed there, right?
Yeah.
But if you're trying to play the game of, okay, well, we're going to keep you on the East Coast, fine, go to Connecticut. The committee doesn't have to put UConn there. That makes literally no sense. Send them to Greensboro. And I think someone they asked, and this is where it is an issue. And like, I thought that Duke, like when it comes to the Duke UNC State thing, you always have this feeling that Duke, they don't care about State, but they have State's back, right? Like in big things, like because Coach K always had Jimmy V's back, that relationship. So you felt like, I think Nina King, the Duke AD, is like she was the spokesperson or the main one on the women's selection committee.
Yeah.
She had the audacity to say something to the effect, because she was asked the question, and I think the answer came back to it was, we did the seating and we did where we would for the fan experience. It's like where it's like, it makes more sense from a fan experience. We got to make sure Connecticut stays in Connecticut. It's like, no, you don't. Like, not if it's going against a 1 seed who literally has a better resume and all that stuff, who has to go play a glorified road game, at that place. It's disgusting.
All right, so yeah, I've got it here. Well, here, let's see. I think I can share this tab here. Our good friend, the intrepid reporter Brett Friedlander, asked Nina King about her explanation to put UConn as number 10. This doesn't have the transcript of the breakdown, because she even said something that was more a little like, it was like, we were really happy we got that one right. And it was like, whoa. It's like, not only is it not great, like, you're adamant that you got it right. It's like, I don't know, maybe not. I had to go check. I had to see if Debbie Yao had chimed in on Twitter about this, because, she's great for it. Unfortunately, she had only retweeted Brett Friedlander with the shoot. So go ahead.
I agree and disagree with Goodson. I agree. I disagree that I think you have to put UConn in Bridgeport, but I agree with Goodson that you also have to go to NC State and say, look, you guys are a 1 seed. You're in this bracket. We've got to put UConn in Bridgeport. Which would you rather do? And I'm sure he would rather be the 2 seed in South Carolina's bracket playing in Greensboro than the 1 seed playing Connecticut in Connecticut, right? Yeah. Like, give the higher seed the choice of what they want to do to set themselves up for, like, their preference, right?
And I believe on the men's side, there was some conversation about this a couple of weeks ago on wasn't Coach K asked, like, maybe in the ENO.
So any team. And I don't know if they do this on the women's side too, but I think they do, because South Carolina ended up in Greensboro.
I actually don't think they do, but keep going. But yeah.
So any team that's in the running for a 1 seed, basically, right? They ask them to submit a preference for their
of the 4 regions, and obviously, if someone's seated higher than you, if a higher 1 seed,
and only the overall 1 seed ends up getting that preference, but they get the preference from like 12 different teams that might end up in that situation.
That was a classic. Anti-Duke media, It was like
Coach K said
question to be the 1 seed in Chicago. Unbelievable, the audacity of these guys to tell NCAA how to do it. It was like, dude. If you read the full story and whatever. But it was a classic headline. Duke demands the 1 seed in Chicago. Like, what? They're eighth in the country right now. It's ridiculous.
But I think you have to have that conversation because it's like, look, in from the Duke experience, right? Like the two that jump to mind are playing South Carolina in Greenville as a 2 seed, right? Like that was absolutely ridiculous. And then the other one was the Zion RJ Barrett year where they played Virginia Tech in the Sweet 16 in Washington, D.C. They played Inner Sandman at the jump ball. Like, it was a Virginia Tech home game. Like, not even pretending like it wasn't. It is. They need to do a better job of taking care of the higher seeds. And I'm with you, Goodson, that they need to put State in Greensboro, even if it meant putting them as a 2 seed instead of the 1 seed in Connecticut's bracket playing Connecticut.
This is even more disgusting now that I look at. I'm actually more mad.
All right,
Not only is State not in, they're in Connecticut. UNC women got a 5 seed in the Greensboro region.
Yeah.
So UNC, I believe, I don't know will they go on the road? Hold on.
It'd be great if they started in Raleigh.
Where are their first 2 games?
Their first
Please
2 games.
Please be in Raleigh.
No, because teams host like on their home court. No, okay.
That's right.
So UNC does have to go to Tucson, Arizona, and play it. Arizona is the 4 seed, so they would have to, in theory, play Arizona as a road game.
Is the women's Arizona team as overrated in the men's?
They probably are.
Okay, all right.
But if UNC wins 2 games, they're in Greensboro. Ridiculous.
Fortunately, might have to cover that. I mean, we got local teams playing locally. I mean, I feel like you got to be all over that. I love Mad State fans though. Like they talk about the fan experience in Bridgeport. I don't even know who this guy is, but Daniel Williams. Having spent time in Bridgeport, I can only include that Mogadishu wasn't available, and then all these bombed out pictures of Bridgeport. I'm like, you guys got it wrong. Bridgeport's a terrible place to play a game. That's Bridgeport, Connecticut. You guys suck.
Is that Bridgeport or Kiev? Is that Bridgeport or Kiev? Which one is it?
He's lying, but I did find it funny. Anything else? NCAA tournament we want to talk about? Obviously, we'll have
NIT breakdown. It does stuff for Wake. Like, I actually thought, like, if we do the watched games type thing, like when you've watched games this year, like now it is funny that the ACC coach, we talked last week about the coach of the year and player of the year stuff, like whether that was right or wrong, whatever. I thought Wake was a pretty good team, right? Every time I saw them play, they beat the crap out of UNC. I saw them beat State pretty bad. They played a great game against Duke in Cameron. They won some other games pretty emphatically. It would have been cool to see them get in, but they literally were a victim of. They had to strength the schedule, and then they did not have enough good other stuff. Which the committee basically has now told us since the net became a thing and quads became a thing. We basically know 2 things: your wins matter, your losses honestly really don't.
But who you play?
The strength of your wins matter. Like you can, Rutgers, I think had a 300th ranked strength of schedule, but they had like 5 or 6 quad 1 wins. Now you can have issues with the quads because I think they're a little, they can be inflated sometimes. But they had them, and so they were able to overcome the bad strength of schedule. Had Wake beat Duke probably in Durham in that game, Wake's probably in the tournament.
Yeah. That's what it comes down to, right? Like they tried to game the system by getting a bunch of wins against bad teams, right? Like their out of conference schedule was so bad that they didn't have that opportunity for that big win. And then you get really 2 chances in the ACC to beat Duke, and they didn't beat them either time. Yeah. Doesn't matter if they played well or not, right? Like it's a results business, and they didn't have the resume.
If you're Wake,
because in football, most teams know they're not playing for the postseason that plays for a title, right? So like you're not factoring your schedule around trying to get in the college football play, right? That's just like most programs aren't doing that.
And also, and that's why more often than not, schedules can be made 5, 6, 7 years in advance because.
But when you're, Duke was a master at it. UNC and State have done it in times when they're like turning around. But like since you're not playing for the college football championship, you're playing to get a bowl game, and so you need 6 wins. And so it makes sense if you're a program that's coming off a terrible time. Let's schedule 4 wins and try and win 2 of the other 5 and go to a bowl game. And that's kind of that's a good philosophy for a football team to go from.
And Wake did that. Like Wake did that in football. Like that's a great point. They literally scheduled basketball the same way they scheduled their football.
And basketball teams have done it too, because it does feel like, hey, this is a team that needs to get, have 10 wins before we start the conference season. But ultimately the prize is a little bit different. You are trying to get in that NCAA tournament, even if you're not a Final Four team. And so that trying to get those 10 wins is sort of works against trying to have a good strength of schedule that might make you a more appealing NCAA tournament team.
That's probably my favorite take that I've heard so far is that Wake basketball, instead of playing the NIT, they'd be playing in like the Gator Bowl.
Yeah, 100%.
They would absolutely be in a really good bowl game this year.
Yes.
If basketball had bowl games, but they belong in the NIT because they didn't win the games they had to win, and they didn't beat anybody impressive outside of that. Which goes back to like. Let me preface this by saying this is mean. I'm being mean right now.
Nice.
The defiance. This doesn't take away from anything this team accomplished this year. You didn't accomplish anything. You didn't get a double bye. You didn't finish top 4 in the league. You lost to Boston College in the ACC tournament, and you're in the NIT. That is 0 accomplishments. So, yes, you're right. It doesn't take away from any accomplishments because there are no accomplishments. You did nothing this year other than beat a bunch of really bad basketball teams. So, congratulations, Wake Forest. Way to go.
The got man had the scheduling down to an art. Like, because if you're State or Wake, you don't need to pull the Duke and UNC. You don't need to get you're not going to get invited to go play in the Champions Classic, so you don't even have to worry about being invited. But you don't really need to. You don't need to have a Kentucky and UCLA and Michigan on the schedule, right? But the Got Man was great. And you can do this in college basketball. They don't set schedules 12 years in advance. He was great about during the offseason, he would go look at the projected kind of like projections of who was going to win the CAA, the Colonial, who was going to go win the American East Conference. And he may not want to schedule the number 1 Colonial team, but he was scheduled like the 3rd projected team. So it's still a chance that you're likely going to win the game, but that team's gonna in the metrics is gonna be top 200 instead of top 300. And then
number 150 instead of number 350.
They would go play like I remember they had like a series, and you have to schedule series usually in these. Like I think they had a series on one of those with like St. Bonaventure because for whatever reason, like St. Bonaventure was like for a couple years in a row going to be a team that might win the Atlantic. You probably were going to win. And guess what? If you lost the game, the night you lost, it would suck, but it wasn't going to hurt you. Right. Like you were getting more, you were going to get way more benefit of just their metric not driving your schedule strength super high versus either winning or losing the game. So the Got Man has the recipe for like this. If you're in the bubble world and you're going to live on the bubble world, that's what you got to do type deal.
So, any other NCAA tournament chat? Again, we'll have Wednesday to break down some more games that we want to before the thing actually starts on Thursday.
UNC's bracket. What do you think?
So especially after the reminder, UNC did the like, oh, we beat Duke, and then
that's all the crap that I did not want to see when I called it Friday that UNC fans were going to immediately resort back to, oh, we knew this could happen because you saw us play in January, and it's like, no, well, you can't say that. And then get chesty the last week because what you did in Durham and then what you did, your first game in Brooklyn. Which one is it? Are you chesty because you beat Duke on K's last game? Or are you like whatever because you lost to Pitt?
No, UNC fans are going to be chesty that they beat Duke in his last home and K's last home game for about 5 years. That's I mean, there was no split opinion on what happened after the Virginia Tech loss. I mean, Swain and I have gone back and forth on this, and we can, whatever. I think he exaggerates it some. But there is no doubt every UNC fan wanted to beat Virginia Tech. And as soon as they lost, the reaction was, well, can't lose to Duke in the final. Like 100% across the board. That was 100%. It was a sense of a little bit of relief, just not going to.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're a little brother. I mean, that's what happens when you're a little brother.
Coach K is the greatest coach of all time. So beating him matters, I think, to UNC fans. And he had 100 former players there to watch it too. So I think that matters to UNC fans. I do. It is all right. So this UNC fans are. I'll do this for UNC fans. They're going to set themselves up to, I think, probably do exactly what you're going to hate, Goodson, and they're going to set themselves up to not be disappointed, right? Because I do think being in this is the other. Every UNC fan knew this. They're the 8 seed or whatever. They went straight back to, I believe it was 99 or 2000, where they were the 8 seed and Stanford was the 1 seed. And I do genuinely like this if you're a team like North Carolina or somebody that's used to playing in March, and especially when you had Roy Williams and you felt like we're not going to lose our first game, right? But it's you play the 1 seed in the second round. And I mean, UNC could easily lose to Marquette. Shaka Smart obviously knows coaching Mark, right? But if you beat Marquette, it's probably going to be a game that tests you, whereas the 1 seed Baylor is going to roll over Norfolk State, right? So now you're catching a 1 seed that basically hadn't played. It's like playing, your second ACC tournament game when you're catching a team that's played their first. At least the first half, you should jump on them. And if you're not going to be favored to beat Baylor, but UNC, if you beat Baylor, you've knocked off the 1 seed. You're in the Sweet 16. You're guessing that some other upset's going to happen on the other side of the bracket, either Kentucky or, Texas will lose. Somebody, you're not going to have to meet every hard team, and you already took out one hard team, and the bracket might just unfold in front of you. Like you could beat Baylor and then all of a sudden have to face St. Mary's and Murray State, in your second round. But if you lose to Baylor, it's like, they were the 1 seed. It's okay. We
beat Duke.
We didn't, and we beat Duke 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
If they make it to Sunday and beat Baylor, will you book your hotel for New Orleans on Sunday or Saturday? Excuse me, on Saturday.
I'm not going to the NCAA tournament.
Yes, you will. Stop.
Yeah,
stop. You're a liar. You are a liar. If North Carolina's in the Final Four, you will be in New Orleans.
I will say what you're not lying about is you're absolutely right. You beat the 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. You now become the 1 seed, right?
Yes.
Like the path is set up for you to get there. Also, I'd completely forgotten that Stanford was the 1 seed.
Yes.
When Carolina was an 8. Like, get the hell out of here.
Fantastic. They were so weak. It wasn't even the Lopez brothers. It was when there's some other brothers that played for
it was Jacobson. Hold on.
Something like that.
Casey Jacobson and Mark Madsen.
It was Casey
twins, right?
Casey Jacobson and the Collins brothers.
Maybe they weren't twins. They were just a lot of white people. So I assume they were all.
You remember Mark Madsen's dance when he won the NBA championship?
Oh, dude! But yes, so it was a joke. Now, if Baylor had not just won the NCAA tournament title, you'd kind of feel the same way about that. Now, again, I'm not comparing this Baylor team to that Stanford team, but
because they're different and Stanford sucked.
I know, but it's a 1 seed that a school that doesn't have a lot of basketball pedigree. That's sort of what you're equating it to. It's not like a 1 seed Connecticut, even in men's basketball, or Kansas, or even like a 1 seed Texas feels like a scarier deal than Baylor for some reason. Now, again, they did just win it, so I'm not taking anything away from them. But it doesn't look like Gonzaga or Arizona or Kansas. Those feel like name brand teams more than Baylor does, aside for them being the defending champs. But
yeah, that's what's fun. Like you look at all 4 1 seeds. Baylor's the only one that doesn't have the reputation of just absolutely choking in March.
That's
right?
true.
Like Baylor's Baylor. They don't. It's because of that they don't have that pedigree
last year.
That Gonzaga's earned, and then Arizona and Kansas. But like every year the bracket comes out and you see Arizona and Kansas, and you're like, first round upset.
Yeah,
first round upset.
One of them will not make it to the Sweet 16, Kansas or Arizona.
100%.
Although the teams, I can see Arizona losing to Houston, but that wouldn't be until but Arizona's not losing to whoever their first round game is, and they'll probably beat Seton Hall or TCU, but I don't know.
Here's a little side note with Carolina and Marquette. Is there any message board rivalry with Hubert having to win this game to justify being hired as the
over Shaka?
Over Shaka Smart? Like, will there be the look? If we hired Shaka, we'd still.
We win this game. We win this game. We beat Shaka if we have Shaka.
Shaka fell off when you were going to 2 Final Fours in 3 years at VCU. It was hotness, but when he fell off the coaching list after his time at Texas, I don't think anybody was clamoring for Shaka. I mean, I obviously think he's a great coach, but I just don't think it was the same as when he was the white hot coach that he was in at VCU. And it felt like the VCU AD was that hired him was a UNC guy. It felt like it was just all like building to that.
Your boy.
And at the time, again, back to UNC's need to be seen as like the cool program. He was the cool name at the time, right?
Shaka might have. I mean, I think that was part of the reason why he was an intriguing pick.
He was the popular guy at the time, and you're absolutely right that he's fallen off a little bit. But if he beats Carolina in that opening round, does he jump back into? Oh, he should hire Shaka. Look at this.
We'll put him back on the list for 2 years. If Wes Miller doesn't pan out at Cincinnati, then maybe we'll look at Shaka Smart. I will say randomly on that. Watching Duke and UNC both this weekend, it just hit me of like both of them have – there's maybe one guy for UNC that's not a former UNC player, and all the Duke assistant coaches are former Duke coaches, right? I just – for the long haul, I just don't know that that's the best way to run your program. UNC's way worse and ingrained with this, and I didn't like – not commenting on Hubert in general, but obviously I didn't like it with Doherty, and I didn't like it this time of like, you're really only going to interview people inside the program. Like you have to be limiting yourself. And now K to Shire is just like one time, but I just, in general, I don't think that's the best way to run a program. And I get that, I'm not going to tell UNC or Duke how to run their programs, and they're both doing it successfully. But there were a couple times this week where I was struck looking and being like, there's got to be a little bit of like, you're not hearing all the valid opinions if it's just people inside your program. All right, we've gone almost an hour. Can I quickly give you my all ACC tournament team?
Yeah.
All right. Number one, I should have had some music for this. Maybe I can play Moose's Weather Channel music. Oh, no, wait, that's the Crickets music. I don't know. I'll do music another time. On the all ACC team, I only got 5 members. I don't have a second team. Sorry. Number 1 is the Q Train. Shout out to the Q Train. I was staying in Manhattan this time, a little bit further, but the Q Train drops off right by Barclays and takes me right to where I was staying. Brian Geisinger might not have survived, but I paid $30 for a subway pass and basically used that. Every time I thought maybe I'll get an Uber, you'd pull it up and it'd be like $35. You're like, this is a whole nother week of subway pass. But the Q Train got it done for me.
Yeah, Goodson definitely rides the Q Train.
I don't even know if I get that joke.
It's a QAnon joke. I'll just go and make it up.
I still got it. I'm disappointed I didn't. All right, second up of the all ACC team is the Louisville Cardinal. I don't know if you saw this, but nobody has ever dominated the mascot game.
Who knew Louis the Cardinal was this valid?
Cardinal absolutely killing it and crushing it on our TikTok views. So shout out.
It's Peyton Siva is actually the Louisville Cardinal.
Somebody told me it is like a former basketball player who got injured and can't play anymore, but he was like a legit baller.
Oh, the dude who broke his leg? Who's the guy?
It's Kevin Ware. Kevin Ware.
Is it Kevin Ware?
It's Kevin Ware in there. No, he runs too well for it to be Kevin Ware. I saw that guy's leg. There's no way he's still going.
So Louisville can't recruit the basketball players the way they want to, so now they recruit mascots that way. You get
yeah. Also, you can't accuse our player of improper benefits if you don't know who the player is because he's got a mascot. I don't know who was it. Who? Huh? All right. Next up, The Miami band and cheerleader combo, they were the dominant section of the whole tournament. Florida State usually brings it strong with their band. They were out early, so I didn't get to see them. But Miami, they got costume changes like at halftime. Their band crutch. What's the song? I don't even know. It's their fight song, but it's the one that they always do with. One more time. Now,
yeah, it's definitely not their fight song, but it should be their fight song.
I mean, like
Do they
that.
still have the band director with like super long hair?
Yes. Oh, it's a dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, we need to know the name of that song.
One of the coolest things that bands do is when they actually sing, because they never like sing like lyrics. It's always almost like another instrument. It's just like A's and O's, like oh. I don't know. I just like it when pep bands sing. So the Miami pep band and cheer team crushed it. They're my ACC team. I almost went with Max Gongware here, but I'm actually going to boot Max Gongware since I already gave him a shout out. The writer from Newsday, shout out. He's on my All-ACC team because he had that first row seat and he never took it. So I sat on the front row except for the finals. I was on the front row. It was Ross Martin and Adam Smith and the UNC contingency that all was like looking for the front row seats. I would like see them coming and be like, no, I'm getting that Newsday seat, dog. I would wait the requisite, 4 minutes into the game, like let you show up a little bit late. But as soon as that first TV timeout hit, I was moving down there with Matt Nordlander and Dan Wolken, baby, just running with the national college guys. And finally, the MVP of the ACC tournament, there's no doubt, it was Charlie Moore, because he gave us this moment when he decided to dap up. If you follow us on social media, you've seen this on Twitter, on TikTok. The best part is anything that goes viral, the conversations are just going to break down and devolve into just terrible talk. So the philosophy of whether or not black people can be racist, whether or not this was him dapping black people or just the people who played, regardless of what it was pretty funny when Brian Geisinger spotted Charlie Moore dapping up certain people in the handshake.
That he will coach the Blue Devils in the final of the ACC Tournament.
There it is. And in fact, it was such a good moment. Charlie Moore was even asked about it by a media member. Here's what he said.
What's more for Charlie?
About a moment that kind of went viral after the game, the Key and Peele skit that you're doing compared to. Have you seen that video?
I seen it.
What's your thoughts on that?
No, I really thought it was funny. I seen it went viral. I was really just, noticing the teams, the players who played, who was out there, shedding sweat with me. So it wasn't really like that. I love all. I love all. So it was a great video. I thought it was funny for real.
There it is. ACC MVP of the tournament. Charlie, and he was fun to watch. He also had a really good tournament.
Yeah, he did have a good tournament.
But no, there was the Key and Peele. The one we did not get video. We did get video footage of him not giving love to a Duke backup who didn't play, who was black. So that would go as his theory. We didn't get to see the Joey Baker, how he interacted with Joey.
Yeah, he was like the first one in line, so
that would have been telling. Did Joey Baker get the dap because he actually played?
I don't know his name because he's new. He's the guy they brought in from overseas, but the tall white walk on, he did go in like. That was the key deal part. He went in for the hug, and Charlie Moore was like, "No,
good to meet you."
but respect to Michael Savarino and Keenan Worthington, who knew their place and just got the handshake.
They've been before. They know what's up. But no, that is my All ACC team. All right, we'll be back. Go ahead.
You forgot to mention the most important thing of the entire weekend, Permar.
What's that?
The curse. You uncovered the ACC tournament curse.
Okay.
You know why Duke didn't win the championship on Saturday?
Why's that?
Banchero touched confetti before they won.
Oh,
the confetti falling from the ceiling, and again, like it was the game. Like if you watched on Tuesday, you could see confetti coming down from the sky. You caught the video during the Miami game of confetti coming down, and you were following it. Banchero went over and caught it before he hit the court and threw it off. So much like you cannot touch the Stanley Cup before you win it.
I'm sorry.
You trying to pull it up?
Yep, I got it right here. Is it on there? Oh, hold on. All right, yeah, here. We'll watch it real quick.
Yeah, maybe.
So there's, I don't know if you can see in the screen. Oh, here, I see it. There it is. It's falling. I didn't even see him coming. I was just following the confetti. And Carol says no.
Yep.
There it is.
That was it. That's the curse. You can't touch the ACC before you win.
Oh, sorry. All right. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, that was it. You uncovered the curse. You cannot.
I will say it was. There's one of those like I'm noticing them on the court, and I'm sure most of the people are like, "Who is this loser who got a front row seat to the ACC tournament? He's talking about stupid confetti." And I'm like, totally admit it. However, at the start of the final, and what I think it was the when they had the finals and they do the introductions, they bring out those flamethrower things. So I think it like just heated the upper atmosphere. No lie, and I tried to get video of this as they were coming out for the tip off. I thought there was going to be like every player was like kind of grabbing some. They had all the dudes on the court, and I was like, man, if it's coming down like it wasn't one every 4 minutes, it was like 5 in like a minute, and I was like, this could like maybe be every now and then you'd see one where people would step right near it, and I'm like, I am going to catch a key moment. We've seen it happen in the NCAA tournament where dudes used to slip on the logos that they would put out there. I think now they actually just build them into the courts. But like, I was like so excited that I was going to be on confetti watch and somebody was going to like slip, on a fast break and fall. But it ended up subsiding. I think it got a little hot for a second. So, all right, this is Sports Channel 8. The podcast will drop in about an hour from now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you get yours. And we'll be back Wednesday, getting ready to kick off the NCAA tournament. For Ben Swain and for new dad Josh Goodson, who's apparently out, and Moose, who's apparently out, I'm Ace Permar. Sports Channel 8, we out.
Great ball club. Sports. When you're leaving it all on the field. Sports. When you like your team's chances. Sports. To survive and advance in sports. For the teams you love and the teams you love to hate. Oh, it's Sports Channel 8.